Hello grade 9 learners, we're back for another exciting math lesson about represent quadratic functions using table of values, graph, and equation. So our objective is to represent quadratic functions using table of values, graphs, and equation. First, you need to know that table of values are represented with the value of x and y or f of x. For this example, we have f of x is equal to x squared plus 2x minus 1. To complete the table of values, all we need to do is to substitute the value of x to the given equation to get f of x. So the first value of x is negative 2. Substitute negative 2 to the given equation and we will have negative 2 squared plus 2 times negative 2 minus 1. 4 minus 4 is equal to 0, minus 1 is equal to negative 1. So for x is equal to negative 2, we have f of x which is negative 1. Next we have x is equal to negative 1. So we will have negative 1 squared plus 2 times negative 1 minus 1. 1 minus 2 is equal to negative 1 minus 1 is equal to negative 2. So for x is equal to negative 1, we have f of x is equal to negative 2. Let's proceed if x is equal to 0. So 0 squared plus 2 times 0 minus 1. 0 plus 0 is 0, minus 1 is negative 1. So our f of x, if x is 0, is negative 1. Next, we have x is equal to 1. So 1 squared plus 2 times 1 minus 1. 1 plus 2 is equal to 3, minus 1 is 2. So our f of x is 2. And last, we have x is equal to 2. 2 squared plus 2 times 2 minus 1. 4 plus 4 is 8. Minus 1 is 7. And that's how we complete the table of values. Now, how are we going to know that the given table of values is a quadratic function? First is to get the difference in x. We will subtract from right to left. So 3 minus 2 is 1, 2 minus 1 is 1, 1 minus 0 is 1, 0 minus negative 1 is 1, and negative 1 minus negative 2 is 1. Make sure that the difference in x is equal to 1. Next is to get the first difference in f of x. Again, from right to left. 19 minus 9 is 10. 9 minus 3 is 6. 3 minus 1 is 2. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. And 3 minus 9 is negative 6. As you can see, the first difference in f of x are not equal. So, let's get the second difference in f of x. 10 minus 6 is 4. 6 minus 2 is 4. 2 minus negative 2 is 4, and negative 2 minus negative 6 is equal to 4. Now, the second difference in f of x are equal. If the second difference in f of x are equal, then the table of values is a quadratic function. A quadratic function in a table of values shows that equal differences in x produce equal second differences in f of x. Let's have another example. Same process. Make sure that the first difference in x is equal to 1. And then, get the difference in f of x. Again, subtract the values from right to left. So, 7 minus 5 is 2, 5 minus 3 is 2, 3 minus 1 is 2, 1 minus negative 1 is 2, and negative 1 minus negative 3 is equal to 2. As you can see, the first difference in f of x are now equal. Now, if the first difference in f of x are equal, it is not a quadratic function. It is a linear function. A linear function in a table of values shows that equal differences in x produce equal differences in f of x. Okay, let's try this one. You can pause and play this video while trying to figure out if the given table of values is a quadratic function or not. Okay, you may start. Now, let's answer. Number 1 is not a quadratic function because the first difference in y are equal. Number 2 is a quadratic function because it produces equal second difference in y. Number 3 is also a quadratic function because it produces equal second difference in y. Did you got 3 correct answers? Very good. Now, let us proceed in representing quadratic function using graph. Given the table of values, we need to plot the corresponding points on the Cartesian plane. The first ordered pair is -2, -3. It is located at third quadrant, same with -1, -1. 0, 1 is located at y-axis, while 1, 3, 2, 5, and ordered pair 3, 7 are located at first quadrant. Connect the points and it will give us a straight line. Let's graph the second table of values. Ordered pairs -2, 9 and -1, 3 are located at second quadrant, while 0, 1 is located at y-axis. While ordered pairs 1, 3, 2, 9 and 3, 19 is located at first quadrant. Which do you think represent a quadratic function? Is it the first table of values or the second table of values? By observing the graph, the first graph is a linear function, while the second graph is a quadratic function. The graph of quadratic function produces parabola or smooth curve. Therefore, the graph of a linear function is a straight line, while the graph of a quadratic function is a smooth curve called parabola. And now, let's proceed in representing quadratic functions using equations. So, quadratic functions can be represented through their equations. First is, the general form of quadratic function is f of x is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are real numbers and a is not equal to 0. Second, the standard form of quadratic function is f of x is equal to a quantity x minus h squared plus k, where a, h, and k are real numbers and a is not equal to 0 because it contains the vertex x minus h. It is also called the vertex form of a quadratic function. Let's have an example. Which of the following are quadratic functions? So, you can also pause and play this video while trying to observe which of the following are quadratic functions. Number 1 is not a quadratic function. Number 2 is a quadratic function because the degree is 2 even if it has no linear term. Number 3 and 4 are not a quadratic function because the degree of a quadratic function should be 2. Number 5 is a quadratic function because the degree is 2 even if no k. Again, 6 is not a quadratic function. Number 7 is a quadratic function because the degree is 2 even if no linear term. Number 8 is also a quadratic function because the degree is 2 and it is complete. Number 9 is also a quadratic function because again the degree is 2 even if it has no linear and constant term, while number 10 is not a quadratic. To sum it up, a linear function in a table of values shows that equal differences in x produce equal differences in f of x. A quadratic function in a table of values shows that equal differences in x produce equal second differences in f of x. The graph of a linear function is a straight line, while the graph of a quadratic function is a smooth curve called parabola. The general form of quadratic function is f of x is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c. The standard form of quadratic function is f of x is equal to a quantity x minus h squared plus k. And that's it for representing quadratic functions using table of values, graph, and equation. We'll see you again next video lesson. Thank you for watching. Keep safe and God bless.